Coming to you direct from the Ghanaian capital, you're listening to Accra Live PM. And you're all very welcome to this second special broadcast live this Friday from the Alliance Française here in Ghana. Again, we have an excellent audience with us in Accra today. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be looking into Ghana's place in the world. I'm David Coffey, coming up in the next hour. Franco-Ghanaian relations. Is there a new love affair between Paris and Accra? We'll be asking the French ambassador to Ghana. In a country surrounded by French-speaking neighbors, is the French language something essential or something exclusive for Ghanaians? Africa's superheroes could leave Marvel and DC Comics in the past? RFI's Laura Angela Bagnetta reports on the rise of graphic novelists right here from Accra City. And we'll be getting a snapshot of what Ghanaians look for in the media and the future of information technology for a country that always punches above its weight. And of course, there will be a very, very special ending to our second edition here in the Ghanaian capital. But you'll all have to stay with us here on Radio France International, Accra Live PM, to find out. You're all very welcome again to Accra Live PM. Now, His Excellency Francois Poulos is the ambassador of France in Ghana. Now, Franco-Ghanaian Relations Ambassador, you're very welcome to the program. Now, relations seem to be very much on the up, as President Mahama visited France early in his mandate in 2013, and he was back in Paris only a few months ago. Now, what exactly is on the agenda when French and Ghanaian diplomats, and of course presidents, actually meet?
Good afternoon, Kofi. Ghana is a very important partner of France in West Africa. Very important indeed. You mentioned that the two presidents just meet, and actually what they discussed were very important issues. Important issues, unfortunately, regard, first of all, security and the common fight against terrorism. So they discussed security issues, in particular in the region, where we've been developing for some years now with Ghanaian and other partners different actions, training and programs to fight piracy and other problems regarding maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea. That's one concrete example in the political field and in the security and strategic field as well.
Now, let's look about economic development here in Ghana and France's role in that development. Now, according to figures that came out in 2014, France exports to Ghana were worth about 198 to 200 million euro, and imports from France, or to France from Ghana, were around 760 million. Now, how does this measure on the grand scheme of things? I mean, what are the main commodities going both ways?
Well, if you talk bilateral trade, of course, it's quite, I would say, limited in scope. Well, mainly from France, we export pharmaceutical products or what is related to pharmacy, or refined oil products as well, and agricultural products, of course, because France is a major exporter of those products. And what we would like to do is to look at the long-term development and partnership with Ghana. And we would like to have more French companies established in Ghana, since we sense a growing interest in France for the Ghanaian economy. We trust the forthcoming developments. And let me mention two areas where we would like very much not only to do trade, but also to invest. And the first one is agriculture. I just mentioned agriculture and agro-food processing. We understand that the Ghanaian people, Ghanaian economy and authorities is keen to develop transformation of products, to put more added value to the production here, and agriculture is a perfect example. France has a lot to offer. And the second example, and then we connect, if I may say, with the COP21, the forthcoming conference on climate change in Paris, it is sustainable cities. There are growing needs, we feel, in Ghana for more sustainable and efficient transportation, waste management system, or water sanitation and distribution as well.
Which is a very big issue.
Not to mention energy and renewable energy in particular. In all those fields, France and French companies in particular are keen to be more present and active in Ghana.
Okay. Now, Let's look at Ghana's role in the region. Former President John Kufuor presided over ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, in the early 2000s, and then he took over the presidency of the African Union in 2007. Now that rose the country's profile regionally and, of course, across the continent. Well, what impact has Ghana made on a global level?
Kofi, you mentioned the regional level, which is maybe the most important one, and the global level, of course, I will say a few words about it. But on the first point, you mentioned Mr. Former President Kufuor's chairmanship of the ECOWAS. You could have mentioned President Mahama's presidency as well, and it finished earlier this year. And President Mahama was very much involved in preventing crisis in the region, and there is a general consensus about the fact that this presidency was a success. So Ghana in the region is a respected country, and it is respected for two main reasons, in my view. The first one is that it is a very stable country with a long tradition of democracy, and second, because of its weight in terms of population and GDP. It's the second GDP after Nigeria. We shouldn't forget it. On the global level, of course, the forthcoming conference is a good example, and we are very much, we would like very much that Ghana plays all its role globally and within the Africa group as well, to make sure that we reach all countries together an agreement in Paris on climate change. I remember at stake here is the future of the planet.
Yes, exactly. Now, moving on to France, I mean, and the cooperation between the two countries. I mean, France, as you said, has been cooperating with security with Ghana. Maritime security, let's have a look at that. And maybe we could have a look at, there's a bit of a spat going on between, now that they found a new oil field off the coast, that is now being contested between Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana here, and they found 1 billion barrels, they believe, by Tullow Oil, which is an Irish company, ironically, and there's going to be an arbitration ruling in 2017. Will this be calmed? Is anything going to come out of this?
Well, Ghana has lots of resources.
Yes.
You mentioned oil, and there is cocoa, and there is gold, and other resources as well. And as per the oil, you will understand that as a diplomat, I won't comment on the discussion ongoing between two countries, which both are friends and
they are friends, indeed.
Partners of France. I'm sure that in the joint and common interest of both countries and in the common interest of development in the region, a very reasonable decision will come out of this tribunal in Hamburg, and that both governments will comply. Okay,
very much my thanks there to His Excellency Francois Poulos, Ambassador to France here in Ghana. Now, we're waiting just who is going to come up onto the stage here, and Mr. Ambassador, please stay with us here. We're joined by Mr. Frédéric Dard, who's the director of the Alliance Française here in Ghana. And thank you very much for having us here at the Alliance Française here in Accra. And Ambassador, you're going to stay with us for this little discussion. Frédéric, what about Ghana being an English-speaking country surrounded by Francophone neighbours? I mean, it's the only Anglophone country in this little region here. Ghana became an associate member of the International Organization of La Francophonie in 2006. In your opinion, how has this affected regional cooperation?
I think it was first a political will from the government of Ghana, and little by little it has become a reality through the teaching of French and also through the presence of many Francophone African coming from the neighboring countries, coming to study in Ghana or coming to work in Ghana. So it's a mixture of will and of reality.
Now, we have a great audience here today, and I'm sure there's quite a few of your students that might be around here as well that you see.
Yes, indeed. most of the people around for this show are our students. Some of them do study French, and some of them do students of bilingual program, so that at the end of the 3 years course, they will be able to work in English as well as in French. And it is a very, very popular diploma, because then they get very easily a job in Ghana.
Now, could you tell us just what exactly the demographic of people learning French is at the Alliance Française here? I mean, who are the people? Who are the students?
I think that from the statistic, 70% of our students are female students, which is a common trend in the Alliance Française. The numbers, we have about 2,200 students, different students coming each year. And we have 4 sessions of 10 weeks, and for each session we have around 800 students. So some of them come for only a session, some will follow 2 consecutive sessions, and so which is 800 students is quite a lot, and especially because some of them do come for 20 hours for a week. So they come every day, they come to the Alliance, and they sit for 4 hours studying French.
Now, can you say that here in Ghana, would you reckon that French is an essential part of education?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It will probably become, especially in the best schools. The best school, especially the private school, have understood the importance of French language. The public school, there is a big support of France through the French embassy to train teachers. And so little by little, we trust that the French will become more of a reality everywhere in the country.
Okay, hope springs eternal indeed. Now, can you tell us a little about the Alliance Française? I mean, what does the Alliance here give to Ghanaians that they don't receive in the national education?
In terms of teaching of French, I believe we teach communication French, which is a kind of practical way of how to handle the language, how to survive in a French-speaking country. I believe at school, from what I saw from the books, it is a very traditional way of teaching, which doesn't make the students speaking French. They would know the grammar, they would be able to read, but not speaking. So the added value of Alliance Française is definitely the communication fact.
And the Alliance, in many ways, could be looked as being a bit exclusive or elitist. Do you think that is the case?
No, in Accra it is not. It is true in some alliances in the world, that's for sure. But in Accra and in these surrounding countries, Alliance Française is a very open place. It is mainly for local people. So in a week, we hardly see any expatriate people coming to Alliance. Mainly the public of Alliance, they are local people, and they come for French language, but also for our cultural program. And Alliance Française of Accra is one of the few places in the city where culture happened.
Okay, and Ambassador Poulos, do you have anything that you would like to say about the role of the French language in this country?
French language is very important in this country, and for a reason that has been touched upon by Frédéric, the director of the Alliance Française Accra, and that is geography. And geography is that Ghana is surrounded by French-speaking countries, but surrounded, it's a bit military. It sounds a little bit threatening, which is not the case at all. Ghana belongs to ECOWAS, and one of the main objectives of Ghanaian authorities is to develop regional integration. And as France, being member of another regional union, which is the European Union, we want to support that movement. And one way of supporting it is to develop or help developing the teaching of French language in Ghana.
Okay, Ambassador Francois Poulos and Frédéric Dar, the director here at the Alliance Française, thank you very much for being on the program. Well, where are the African superheroes? Well, Move over Captain America and Superman because there are homegrown comic book heroes originating right here in Accra. RFI's Laura Angela Bagneto spoke to one of the founders of Africa's Legends, an online comics and video games company. Now, coming to save Africa, they're coming to save Africa from terrorists and Somali pirates.
In a classroom at Virgo Preparatory School in Adabraka District in Accra, a group of 10-year-old students are staying after school. They're listening to fellow student Zane read Ananse, a character in the latest downloaded comic book from Letty Arts, an online video game company here in Accra. The drawings are similar to modern comics. Big, muscular legends with fabulously colored spandex outfits are meant for kids and geeks from 10 to 35.
Did not go unnoticed by the Ghanaian Kweku Anansi.
This is the brainchild of Aram Tawiye, Letty Arts CEO.
Our mission is to retell African history and folklore in the 21st century as African superheroes who solve real African problems.
Africa's Legends include 20 characters, superheroes and villains from all over Africa, including Ghana, Niger, Egypt, South Africa, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. They solve modern problems.
We have a story about the Bring Back Our Girls, the girls that were kidnapped. In our story, the Africa's Legends brought the girls back. So in fantasy, we are able to beat up these terrorists and save the day, just like how Superman always saves the day. We want Shaka Zulu, Pharaoh, and his team to always save the day in Africa, just to give that hope that the girls that were kidnapped could actually be brought back.
But the world has Batman and Spider-Man, so why do we need African superheroes?
As an African child consuming content from the US, it made me see the US way above Africa that I could never relate to my locality. For instance, underground trains. Underground trains were drawn in Captain America, Superman, and all that. It was happening in New York. It wasn't happening in Accra. If in our comics, we can say that Accra has underground trains, Accra has a spaceship. Telling Accra in that light gives you the hope that, hey, I could actually have a spaceship land on the soils of Accra.
The first character on the first comic is Ananse, whose backstory is taken from traditional Ghanaian legend. Iram explains.
In Ghana, we have Ananse. Ananse is also neither a villain or a hero, because Ananse's story, he's a god of wisdom and he's a god of trickery. But now nobody talks about Ananse anymore. So we wanted a way where we can justify that break, that before everyone worshipped Ananse. Everyone talked about Ananse. But because of what he did, God punished him by cursing him into a statue. And with time, people forgot about Ananse's story until now.
Back at Virgo Preparatory School, we asked the students what they thought of the Ananse comic. Irene, like the other students, was impressed by Ananse.
If I look at the pictures, I see that there's someone who was given powers to help the society. That's why I like the story.
Do you know who Superman is and Batman? What do you think in comparison to Ananse?
They all have the same powers, but just that they are in America and this is Ghana.
Philip, on the other hand, had a different idea of Ananse's character.
I like most of what Ananse was doing because he was helping most of the people. But he was also tricky. He would trick you. He will tell you something you believe so that he'll be able to trap you.
Did you like him?
No.
Why didn't you like him?
Because he was doing many things to himself.
Letty Arts' creative arm is based out of Accra, while their technological arm is based in Nairobi, run by co-founder Wesley Kirinya. They have plans for world domination with merchandise, a cartoon series for TV, and more games and comics. For now, the comics are in English and French, but Iram has a pan-African vision for fans to read Africa's legends in their local language, be it Swahili, Twi, or Zulu. Reporting for RFI, this is Laura Angela Bagneto in Accra.
And indeed, that was RFI's Laura Angela Bagneto here on Accra Live PM. You're all very welcome.
If you would like to contact us, please drop us a line at english.service@rfi.fr.
Well, as today's broadcast focuses on Ghana and its role in the world, how do Ghanaians view the world as we approach the COP21, which is looked at as a last chance saloon for climate change? That's only taking place in only a few days' time in Paris. Now, there are many topics that hit the media here that resonate across the globe. I'm joined by Accra correspondent Nana Boache Amadon. You're very welcome to the program.
Thank
Nana.
you.
Now, what hits the news the most here in the country? Now, there's one word that I've picked up since I've been here, and that is doomsor.
Doomsor, yeah.
Do you agree? Is doomsor in the media? Doomsor. Nana, can you explain to our listeners what is doomsor?
Doomsor is a combination of two words in tree. Doom means off, sort means on. So it's just a representation of the off and on with the electricity situation here in Ghana. So it's doom, which is off, so that is on for the lights generally in our homes. Yeah.
So I mean, what is this? Is it something that really hits the pages every day?
Most definitely. I mean, it's the biggest topic here, the energy situation. So we have a power crisis that has lasted for about 3 years now, and it's crippling businesses. It's affecting people. It's affecting daily lives. So it's the most topical issue that people talk about now.
And what else hits the news here in Ghana, in the local press?
Well, you can talk about the economic issues that reflects itself in usually the depreciation of the cedi, and if that happens, it has a replica effect on a lot of the things that we do here, because as you may know, the country is more of an import. It's more of an import economy. There are a lot of things that are imported from outside to Ghana, and which means that most of the people who go out there import would now increase the prices of their product because of the depreciation of the cedi. So it has a direct bearing on the daily lives of people here in Ghana.
And international stories. What do people mostly tune into when they watch the television for international news? Is it just really the actuality, or are there things that specifically are of interest internationally to Ghanaians in particular? Well,
a lot of the times people are interested in the African news, specifically talk about our neighbors, so Nigeria, Togo, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, stories around these countries. Ghanaians are interested. And then also, I'm sure you know the economic migration to, say, the US and UK and other parts of Europe. So if there's any news from these areas, Ghanaians are also interested. So they look out for stories like that.
Okay, now you've been working as a journalist in here for quite a while. I mean, Ghana has always been heralded as one place in Africa where press freedom is very much well respected. Why do you think this is?
Well, I think that it actually started from 2001 when the criminal libel law was repealed, because that particular law sort of antagonized, journalists.
Threatened people,
yes,
of course.
So after the repeal, we saw a plethora of media houses. As we speak now, as at the first quarter of 2015, over 390 radio stations had been licensed, out of which about 309 are currently operating. Talk about television stations, there are well around 60 and about 30-something are in operation. Same for the newspapers as well. So it's actually a boom for the media, and Ghanaians are very much attached to what the media also say.
Okay, now let's take a look at the Media Foundation for West Africa. Now, that has commended radio journalists such as yourself here in Ghana for contributing towards the country's development. And this is surely a genuflection towards how stable the country's democracy is and how a democracy can flourish while a free press is strong. Now, what in your opinion ensures that freedom here? Is it the unions or is it the people?
It's the people. I mean, every corner of this country, people have radio sets listening. And there are people who have even joked that the radio in Ghana is the gospel, because anything that comes out of the radio, it makes a lot of impact. Now, the good thing is that it's also quite interactive, because there are people who are texting in and calling in and sharing their opinion. So it's a direct response or reflection or if you may call it, a direct, response from the people to government or policymakers about whatever they are doing that affects the people.
Now, we have the people here in front of us here, the great crowd at Accra Live PM. That question, what do you think? Anybody in the audience here who would like to make a comment on press freedom here in this country or the quality of the press here in Ghana? Anybody like to come forward and say their opinion? Please. Tell me your name, please.
Thank you. My name is Roxanne. Roxanne Midoo. I think the freedom of the press in GH at the moment is not as free as we all presume it is. Because when someone comes up with a news or with an information, he or she gets scared of whatever will happen to him or her, whether he's going to face any harsh consequences or anything. So journalists in general, or anybody who has any information pertaining to any situation that is going against the humanity of the country or the general the social well-being of the country, he or she gets scared and probably will not come up with the actual problems.
Now, back to you, Nana.
I would disagree with that. Maybe he's probably confusing that with criticism or a reaction to the story. I think journalists in Ghana are largely, very free to work in the space, the democratic space that we have. People talk, people write, people speak their minds. So I don't think people are scared, but I mean, obviously, whatever you do, people will definitely criticize or have a response to your story. So I think in the space within that which I work, I believe that the media is free and they are always free to write whatever they want to. Only that they have to be responsible.
Now, one polemic that will also resonate with other countries in Africa and across the globe is the issue of paying TV licenses in a world of digital TV where you can get whatever you want, whenever you want, basically. But here in Ghana, there is a proposal to reintroduce TV licenses. Now, I believe it was the Herald newspaper here in Accra that underlined the catch-22. No license for TV, no quality productions. Pay a license, but will it improve the quality of public broadcasting? Now, there's a debate. To the people out here in the audience, do you think that paying a TV license will improve the quality of the TV that you watch here in Ghana? Please give your name.
Yes, my name is David Toglo. Concerning the paying of the TV license, I think is good. It's good. Because everyone buys a pole and puts it on top of his roof and gets access to communication. Okay, how does that come to your home? We ask ourselves, we don't know. We never pay, we just buy a TV set and just put it in the room and then receive some kind of transmission. But what is the network behind it? We don't know. Who pays for it? The government. At the end of the day, we come and sit down and say, the government didn't do this, it didn't do that. But he invested in that transmission that came to your house.
But the government still needs to fund it, and it needs to be funded by the public, like RFI.
Yes, of course. But who is the government? We are all the government. If the government doesn't get the resources, we don't get anything. So if the government gets broke in a way, and we want our country to actually get to the peak we are expecting it to get to, I think we should all contribute. And I think this is a good idea.
And Nana, the final word on this minor debate. Thank you very much for your participation. Nana.
Well, I think that the debate on this is more about the quality that people think they receive on the national television. But they also argue that they have a constitutional mandate that charges them to go to every corner of this country. Now, the private TV stations don't go to every corner of the country, but they do, and they need money to do that. So I guess from that point of view, it's good. But whether or not that would translate into quality programming, well, I doubt.
Okay, my thanks there to Nana Boache Amadon, and of course for our audience here today for participating in that little discussion. Thank you very much. Well, now we're going to take a little look at information technology, and I'm joined today by Al Hassan Umar, who was the former director of ITES, the Secretariat at the Ministry of Communications of Ghana, and I'm also joined by Bright Simons from Pedigree here at the table here at Accra Live PM. Now, Gentlemen, you're both very welcome to the program today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, in a place, this is going to be a broad discussion, in a place as bureaucratic as Ghana, what has ITES to offer in streamlining things?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Well, ITES, as the
ITES, I should say.
ITES stand for IT, which is Information Technology Enabled Services. It is a wing that opens up or provide enable environment for ICT businesses to grow. And so at the onset of this program was started or began under the e-Ghana project. And it was meant to attract and retain IT and ICT businesses into Ghana to create opportunities, job opportunities, and also transfer knowledge. At the same time, also promote innovation and ICT entrepreneurship. And so a lot has been done to provide enable environment. As you know, at the onset, I think it was just a greenfield. But today, as we speak, we have companies, ICT companies and BPO companies, accountable that has provided jobs and keep hiring and also attracting. We attracted no less than 4 international companies. We have Techno presently, we have Tech Mahindra, we have we had Teletech, which is no more in Ghana. We have ACS, and we also have one of the largest Ghanaian BPO company called E-Services, and other lots of ICT or software development services. So it's been good.
So, I mean, would you now class Ghana as very much a player on the African continent? I mean, you have got competition for, from Rwanda, for example, which is really trying to position itself as the go-to place for information technology development in Africa.
Yes, I think Ghana is ahead of Rwanda. I think we are just competing with Rwanda in a way that the only thing Rwanda claims is the availability of connectivity, which is very present. However, in Ghana, we have about six submarine cables in Ghana. So connectivity is as well as presence here. However, there are other factors that comes into enable environment. And one of it is also government. In Rwanda, the government is driving that sector. Whereas in Ghana, we are doing it in combination with the private sector to drive it, because at the end of the day, it belongs to a private sector.
And now, tell us about, you're talking about connectivity here in Ghana, but what about the accessibility to connectivity? What do you have to pay? I mean, I will just give you a personal example. A few months back, I was in Tanzania and I bought a SIM card for my iPhone, and I got 4G unlimited data for the equivalent of €4.50. And I was in the middle of nowhere, and I could get everything from email to Facebook to the news, France 24. What about that here in Ghana?
Well, we still have some few challenges, particularly in the 4G area. The 4G area, I think we only have 4G in Accra and Kumasi, but it is not yet vibrant and robust throughout the country. The reasons are very narrow. One of the reasons is that at the broadcast or the sale of the 4G license, it was not given to the existing companies, that is the telephone providers. And so the new companies came up, and they still have challenges to provide cell centers or reception areas throughout the country. However, I think if you have it in Accra, it is you have, what's the company? Sepline. It's already in Ghana.
Okay.
And I can tell you that, yes, Ghana, we have already produced achievement ICT companies like Empegri, like Ostec, like Several. I think those are the two that can come out on top of my mind.
And indeed, talking of M Pedigree now, Bright Simons, you're from M Pedigree. Tell us exactly about the company. I mean, we're talking about this is a big market that needs to be really, that has been, I think, in massive expansion at the moment. Tell us a little about it.
So M Pedigree was founded in 2007 in Ghana and has since now moved to about a total of a dozen countries, most of them in Africa. Some of them also in the Middle East and North Africa, particularly in Egypt, and South Asia, India in particular. So that is the spread of the company. And we started off trying to make it both convenient and reliable for people to confirm if medicines that they've received or bought are the correct medicines, are genuine medicines. And that need arose from a very, not necessarily peculiar to Africa, but very pervasive problem of buying medicines, thinking that you are getting the medicine that can cure your malaria or your HIV, and then finding out that what is in that medicine is anything from rat poison to chalk. So we produce technology that enables, first of all, the manufacturers and the brand owners, working hand in hand with the government agencies, to certify to the consumer who only you have to use a mobile phone to confirm if that medicine is genuine. And we started with medicines, like I said, and then very quickly realized that that is not the only area where human impact is very significant, and that we also have the same problems in car parts, for instance, so automotive parts. A lot of the road accidents in Africa, where at least almost 300,000 people die every year from road accidents, a lot of that is related to the car parts that you buy, whether they are brake parts or plugs being fake. And then agriculture, where we ensure that the seeds that are planted by farmers in East Africa are the correct seeds, because we have a lot of fake seeds that undermine food security and agriculture. So in summary, that is what we do. Okay.
Now, a question to both of you, Al-Hassan and Bright. Now, we're less than an hour away from Nigeria by plane. Now, Nigeria, unfortunately, is infamous for the 419 online money scams. Now, what do you see as the future for online security, specifically on the African continent, where you can go into some government agencies that will be combating cybercrime and they don't even have a computer, let alone any information on, or even laws on cybercrime? I mean, what actually can be, what is the future for that here in online security in Africa?
Thank you. I think Ghana is we already have a law on data security that also provide, ensures that there is a law against cybercrime. And so Ghana and the security agencies in Ghana, particularly when you go to the security, they also have a different desk which is responsible in fighting cybercrime. So it's different to just walk into any police station thinking that they should have a computer.
Well, I mean, the example now that I'm thinking of was actually, unfortunately, in Tanzania, where there were credit card frauds going on. There were Eastern European men who were going around stealing credit cards, using them in the bank machines, and then when they were caught, they had no law to do anything. They just said, oh, we'll get out of the country. There was nothing to convict them. There was no law in place. I mean, Ghana may be an example where there is something in place. But I mean, let's think in general with cyber security in Africa. Some countries are better than others. Bright, what's your opinion on it?
So first of all, we need to distinguish between internet-enabled crimes, which includes fraud in particular, where somebody sends you an email and says, you know, my father was a prince and he has $10 million. Which account should I put it into? That is not cybercrime. We only call it cybercrime because the person used an email. But that is like saying that if I call you and threaten you, that's telephone crime. Makes no sense. So we have to distinguish between that type of crime, which is internet-enabled, and true cybercrime, in which I mean hackers and the likes who can steal information from your computer, dismantle it, and the rest of it. As far as cybercrime is concerned, Africa is more likely the victim, in which case we've seen websites that the Ghanaian government ran hijacked by international cyber terrorists and cyber criminals, and where we've had no defense against that. I think our institutional systems are much more vulnerable to real cybercrime in that respect, where you have somebody who is undermining computer systems in a way to perpetrate crime. When we come to the other type of crime, which is internet-enabled crimes, often called 419 and the likes of it, they are rooted more in social dynamics. So if you go to the slums of Ghana, where a lot of this happened, these people are, simply extending normal crimes they will have perpetrated locally, internationally, because they have access to the internet. So these are people who have duped, a trader in Ghana, but now they have access to the internet and to email, and so they are now extending that same capability overseas. It's not the same problem. How to address it, therefore, has to be completely different. If you're talking about cybersecurity, then it's about enabling the capacity. First of all, ensuring that the private sector works hand in hand with the government. Because in Ghana and in most African countries, there's now more capacity in the private sector when it comes to cyber competence than in the private sector. When it comes to the other kind of problems, internet-enabled crimes, for instance, then what we have to do is solve social problems. So if the gentleman in Nima or in Ashama or whatever it is that is trying to defraud a white guy in the US or somewhere else, if they can't find a job, then if they can't do it through the internet, they will do it locally.
Sure.
So we might as well just agree that when it comes to solving that problem, we should solve it locally, as in find jobs for people and the rest of it.
Now, on the topic of finding jobs and education within information technology and information technology development, doesn't more IT know-how also mean more IT responsibility when teaching students? You're giving them keys to go into a whole new cyber world. Is there a code of ethics that is also being taught in tandem? To yourself, Al-Hassan.
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
It should be in tandem, ethics and also coursework. However, it depends on the, when it comes to software development and IT, people do try on their service on their own to see what they can overcome. And so for you in an IT that has learned some course or software development, you must be able to test yourself. If you can't do that, then there's a problem.
But what about people who just say, I'm going to learn IT so I can hack into somebody's bank account? I mean, Bright, what do you reckon? Do you think there is a code of ethics that is actually being taught there?
So we often call that netiquette or net etiquette.
Net etiquette.
There is definitely a reflection of the general society in the way that it behaves online. So if you go to Eastern Europe and you find that there's a lot of cyber criminals, invariably because there's a lot of organized criminals. So there's a lot of organized crime, which then extends their capabilities online. So I still believe that the first thing to do is to have an educational system that definitely teaches civics, definitely teaches morality, and definitely teaches people to be much more humanist in their orientation. That will then reflect into the internet. I don't think you can teach people internet-specific skills.
Well, my thanks there to Al-Hassan Umar, the former director of ITIS, and Bright Simons from mpedigree.org. Thank you very much for being on Accra Live PM today.
Thank you so much.
And indeed you are listening to Accra Live PM here at the Alliance Francaise in the Ghanaian capital. Indeed, a fabulous crowd we have today. Laura Angela,
yes,
of course.
we do.
Now, this past week, the Mo Ibrahim Foundation held its annual Good Governance weekend here in Accra with a special free concert. Now, yes. Laura Angela, you spoke to Senegal's singing sensation Youssou N'Dour in an exclusive interview on how it felt to be back in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. Now, Laura Angela, what was the mood in the room when you met this African icon?
Well, I mean, I have to say, he is amazing. I mean, he's a Renaissance man. He's a musician. He's a producer. He's a businessman. He's an activist. He's a politician. Everything. I mean, I said, what boxes have you not checked yet? You've done everything here. And I also got him to do the interview in English, which was even more important because I told him we are going to have a live audience here, and they want to know what you think of Ghana. So he obliged, and here we go.
Yeah, very happy, very enthusiastic because of what Accra means for us, what also this country give for Africa. Every time I come here, I just be happy to be in Africa because this is symbol of Africa also.
You're alluding to the Pan-African movement, Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because of what this country means for Africa is they with Nkrumah they incarn what we call the African unit. And today, better than yesterday, we need this unity. We need to go together. We need also, to be moving forward together.
You are here for the Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend. When the awards were given out last night, Namibian President Pohamba and Dr. Mo Ibrahim said that we need to keep the youth here in Africa, that they shouldn't be drowning in the Mediterranean. How would you rate that?
Firstly, I'm really happy to be here with the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. We follow what he's doing since now more than 8 years with Angelique Kidjo. We support him because the message is very good. He getting more involved in Africa, and he said the right things to the Africans, help the governance to go to the good governance. And I think really talking to the point about youth. In Africa, 60% of this population are under than 25. We have to give them, education. We have to give them job. We have to tell them here we can do something. The other place they think is El Dorado is not. I think really we have to work very hard to give them job, to really give them hope.
Turning to music, do you have any projects that you can tell us that are in the pipeline?
And I'm working on a new album, definitely share by different young people, young generation who are doing very well actually. I composed some song and I'm gonna do a duet with them, and it's gonna happen next year.
So youth for you is really important. I mean, not just ones who are leaving, but also the ones who are staying here and making a difference.
They give you inspiration. Today you can move without them, definitely. And with them you can do a lot of great things.
How would you characterize 2015 for yourself, for your music?
Yeah, for myself, everything's fine. I'm always wondering about what's happening today to the world. A lot of innocents are killed. It's very difficult. This year is very difficult year, and I hope people can understand the difference of religion, of language, of colors is not obstacle. It's riches. The hope next year is going to be better.
And that, of course, was the one and only Youssou N'Dour speaking to RFI's Laura Angela Bagneto. And now I have the great pleasure to introduce someone who is probably even bigger than Youssou N'Dour here in Ghana. And this is Mr. One Love, the Kubalor. You're very welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Now, just to let our listeners know, One Love is a Ghanaian Romanian musician who has made a name for himself across the globe. And One Love, it's great to have you on the program here today on Accra Live PM.
I'm happy to be Mr. Kofi.
Yes, you're very welcome. Now, you've just got off a plane last night from Munich.
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was collecting snow to come and share it to Ghanaians.
Who have all seen quite a lot of snow in their time.
Yeah, there was a literature festival in Munich, the Manchen Literature Festival. So Mensa and I were performing at this festival. Yeah.
And tell us about your collaboration with Mensa. This has been going on a long time. Is it your spiritual partner in music?
I don't believe in marriage, but I think Mensa and I are going to get married very soon.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Mensa and I we met in 97 in high school, Cape Coast, at this school, and I used to go to his classroom. He was my junior in school, and I used to lie to his teachers, telling them that another teacher is looking for him in a different class, and we'll run off into the village and rap all day. So we're bad students, but we became good rappers.
So you've been best friends forever?
Yeah, for some time.
Now, can you tell us a little about the future now here for yourself and Mensa? What is coming up on the horizon? Have you a new album coming out?
We are working on a mixtape. It's an ode to Ghana. It's kind of out of our character. It's actually a serious album. We don't use much sarcasm like we are known for. It's a direct album because Ghana is getting to a tipping point where we need to show a red card, no more yellow cards. So this is one of the projects we are doing. We are also writing our 3rd film and a 4th film as well. And so we'll be shooting those films next year in Lagos and Rio and some in Accra and London as well. And aside from that, we are really interested in the new artists that are coming out in Ghana. So we support them by doing free videos for them, free recordings. We do a lot of, support for the local scene. Yeah.
Now, when we met a little earlier today, you chose a song to play today called Human Being. Explain exactly why you chose that song to describe it to us today.
I wrote Human Being in 2000 and... I don't remember when 9/11 took place, but I wrote that. Yeah, I wrote that song when, a war broke out after 9/11, and just to remind people that whatever is going on somewhere in the world, we are all the same, one human being, basically. So, if my brother is struggling in Nigeria, I'm a Nigerian. If my sister is struggling in Romania, I'm a Romanian. We are human beings. That was the whole vibe for that song.
And of course, in the light of the Paris attacks there over 10 days ago now, it seemed pertinent to play today.
Yes, definitely.
Struggle for Kenya, I be Kenyan, no. If my sister they struggle for Nigeria, I be Nigerian, no. If my brother they struggle for Somalia, I be Somalian, no. If my sister they struggle for Romania, I be Romanian, no. Oh, I be human being, oh, I be human being, oh, I be human being, oh. Just like I be human being, oh, 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 oh. Just like you. All we want is a little piece of bread and mind, but it's so hard to get, so hard to get, so hard to get, so hard to get. Born into this world just like you, yet I don't have a say, don't have a say. Don't have a say, don't have a say. When gunmen come to split my family, I pray, please go away, please go away, please go away, please go away. I'm hoping that you come and help me, oh. So please try your best, please try your best, please try your best, please. Cause I be human being, oh, 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 oh. Just like you. Oh, I be human being, 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 oh, oh. Just like you, Filippo.
And that song there was Human Being by One Love, the Kubolo. One Love, just tell us, the Kubolo, what exactly does that mean?
Vagabond.
In
That's
what language?
It means. It's a combination. I mean, there's almost the same word in Twi as well as in Ga. In Ga, they'll say Oboko, which means you don't come home. You're always roaming around. And in Twi, they say Oboko. So it's almost a kobofo. So somebody who roams around, doesn't come home.
Well, of course, you are half Ghanaian, half Romanian,
yes.
So you are the African gypsy. I mean, what is it? I mean, do you feel more at home in Ghana? Do you feel more at home in Romania? Or do you feel equally a vagabond in both places?
I feel at home more in Ghana. But you know, Ghana is also a place where you can travel an hour or 2 hours and you don't understand anything going on so far as language is concerned. You can go to the Volta region and I don't understand the Ewe language very well. So you can go to certain places and not feel, you know, like you really belong or like you're at home. But in Romania, anywhere I go, I speak the same language. So it's easy there as well. But most of my life was spent here, just holidays and stuff in Romania.
And I mean, do you still have family in Romania?
Yes, yes. My mother, my brother lived there.
Okay, and when was the last time you were back?
There? Oh, just 2 weeks ago. I was actually at the protests against the government that made...
of course, on the 19th.
Yeah,
that's right.
I was there.
Yes, yes. And there were,
in Bucharest, yeah.
And of course, the Prime Minister resigned.
Yes.
So it was interesting times that you were there.
Yeah, very interesting.
Do you follow the trouble or does trouble follow you?
Both. It's a cycle. And so for me, it was because here in Ghana, we don't have that active youth participation in politics. It's very laissez-faire. You know, we wait for things to happen to us. But there, the youth didn't stand for the corruption that was going on. And, I mean, so many people came out, 500,000 million.
Yes.
And the guy had to step down. Yeah.
There were impressive images, all right, coming out of Bucharest that day. Well, for the following days, there were over a series of days.
A week, yeah.
Now, protests. Of course, the world is now having to wake up to the reality of environmental change. We have the make or break COP21 summit that's taking place in Paris.
Yes.
Now, you're going to be involved in that. Tell us exactly what your involvement will be.
Well, in collaboration with an organization called Orphan Aid, and which also brought on board Trashy Bags. You were speaking earlier.
Indeed, that we saw, we met earlier.
Yeah, I'm going there to perform, to just give a musical performance, a more stripped down, personal performance. I'll have a guest violinist who is German Ghanaian. He's called Francis Norman, going to join me on that night. So it will be me, my guitar, and Francis and his violin, just making the people in Paris feel good.
Excellent. Now, we unfortunately are coming towards the end of our program of Accra Live PM today. Before we go, we'd like to thank you all very much for participating.
Thank you.
You have been an absolutely fantastic audience, and we will never forget this experience here at the Alliance Française here in Accra. But before we go, One Love, you have chosen a song that we can all sing out to, I hope. It's called Casamea. Tell us about this song.
I don't think we can sing. No, this song is a Romanian song.
Indeed.
In 2011, I won the Visa pour Création, and I lived for 3 months in Paris at the Cité Internationale des Arts. And this was a French embassy and Institut Français that sponsored this. I did an album. And the theme was combining gypsy music and African music, which I did. And this song is very ironic because at the time I got there was a lot of trouble with the gypsies, which were being evicted from certain places. And so Casamea just means my home. The planet is my home.
Okay, the planet is my home. Casamea from One Love. Thank you all very much for being here on Accra Live PM. I'm David Coffey. Have a very good day.